Hey everybody, I'm Lake Pickle with Onyx. I want to spend some time walking you through one of the newer features to the Hunt app, but what has quickly become one of my favorite tools for finding, scouting, hunting whitetails in the Southeast, and that is the tree species layers. Now, if you've spent any time hunting around the Southeast, then you know we are a pine tree dominated landscape. There are loblolly pines planted everywhere, and that is exactly why these tree species layers are so powerful and make for such an incredible tool. Now, I use them for a couple different things. I use them for finding edges. I use them for finding overall habitat diversity. I use them for finding food sources like acorn trees. And I also use them for finding natural travel corridors. So let's jump right into it. Today, I'm gonna be using the web map, but keep in mind, you can do the exact same thing on your phone on the app. I'm just using this today because it's a bigger screen, makes it easier for sharing. So if we look at this area that I have pulled up today, I have no layers turned on right now. I wanted to start with a more obvious example so you could see exactly how these layers work. So if we go to this area where the crosshairs are and kind of this entire part that I'm outlining with my mouse, you can see all the canopy kind of looks the same size, the same color. You can even see rows in there. And in fact, some of y'all that have spent time studying areas down here can look at that and just tell me outright that that's planted pines. This is a pine plantation, and you would be correct. If we go to the north and to the west of the pines as well, you can see there's not really any identifiable pattern. There's not really any pattern in color as well. It all looks kind of broken up. That would be because these are going to be miscellaneous hardwoods, more of your deciduous trees. Again, we're kind of going for an obvious example here. So now let's get to showing you how these layers work. I'm going to go up here to Hunt Map Layers. I'm going to click that. I'm going to scroll down until I see the folder labeled Trees, Crops, and Cover. I'm going to click there, and then I'm going to scroll down until I see this, deciduous versus coniferous. Now, before I turn it on, I'm going to go to layer settings where you kind of see how this works. So when we turn this layer on, it's going to show all the deciduous trees highlighted in red, all the solid coniferous trees highlighted in kind of a light brown, and then where it's mixed, it's going to kind of be this peach color. So let's turn the layer on and see what happens. So as you can see, the map automatically populates. Here's that area that we started out with that we knew was pines. It's in that light brown color. If you hover your mouse over it, it comes up as coniferous. We go to the north, solid red, deciduous. And if we go to this area in between the lake and the pine stand, we see that it's mostly mixed with some areas of solid deciduous. So just from that, we can highlight just how powerful and how accurate that this layer is. But let's take it a step further and let's apply it to an actual hunt setting. So if I was turned loose on this property, having never been there before, let's look at this and how can we use this deciduous versus coniferous layer that we just turned on. So we know we have coniferous right here, deciduous right here, mixed right here. There's a lake over here. We got a field right here. One of the things, or a couple of things that I said I use this layer for, finding habitat diversity, travel corridors, edges. This area right here, if I was turned loose and didn't have a lot of time, you have a lot of things happening right here. You have all these different habitat types coming together. Lake, solid deciduous trees, solid coniferous trees, this field over here. This area right here is a natural funnel. If you even look at it, the outline of what's labeled as mixed is even in the shape of a funnel. To the north, you've got kind of the large opening, and as you move further south, it tapers down. And this area right here, I would be super interested to walk into this area and see what kind of deer sign was there. Imagine also, if you're here during the rut, if you were to hang a tree stand, let's say right here where you're right along the edge of the water, you have hunted on any kind of east wind, a dead east, a northeast, a southeast. One, all your scent's going to blow over the water. You're going to be safe there. Two, there's a good chance, depending on how old these pines are, that a lot of that's going to be thick and hold deer. Three, that makes this funnel that deer are probably already using a even hotter corridor for cruising bucks that want to scent check this area for does. That shows you just how easy and quickly using these layers can get you in the game. So let's zoom out of this property and go to another area and check out another one of these layers. So for this next layer, we're going to focus on finding food sources. I know at the beginning of this video, I said that the Southeast was a pine-dominated landscape, and predominantly it is, but there are areas where that is not the case. A good example of that would be your river systems. Down here we have the Mississippi River, the Big Black, the Tombigbee, the Pearl, so on and so forth. Now, here's the thing about river properties. I have one pulled up here. If I go to this area, which is right along the Mississippi River, as you can see, if I go to this area and go back up to my layers, go back to tree, crops, cover, if I go right back to this same layer that we used first, if I turn on deciduous versus coniferous, let's flip that on real quick, it doesn't really help me that much. Along these river systems, you're not going to find a lot of coniferous trees. You're going to see either your open areas or you're going to see deciduous trees everywhere. So what can you do in these kind of situations to help you kind of concentrate in on areas you could focus on to help you find food sources? So let's go back to Hunt Map Layers. Let's click that. Let's scroll to Trees, Crops, Cover. Let's turn this layer off, and we're going to focus on acorn producing oaks. Now, again, before we turn this on, let's go to layer settings to kind of get a good idea of how this works. Mature oak tree forests that have potential for acorn production for food sources. Oak tree species are broken down into white oaks, red oaks, and mixed oaks. White oaks are going to be this light green. Red oaks are obviously going to be dark red. And where it's mixed, you're going to get this kind of peach orange color. So again, let's turn this layer on, and the map is going to populate. So it's still a pretty wide dispersal, as you can see, but this gives you a lot more to work with in terms of areas that you could potentially concentrate on. Now, for this example, let's focus in on right here. And again, focusing on how accurate and helpful this tool can be. This is a property that I've actually hunted before, and I can vouch for the fact that there is, again, this dark, the red squares are going to be signifying where red oaks are. I can vouch for the fact that there is a water oak tree right here, and it does hold and drop acorns. I know that because I've hunted here before. I actually filmed Brad Ferris shoot a really nice buck right here. And again, that's just a testament of how quickly these layers can help you get in the game, and it also shows how accurate they are. So let's zoom out of this property, and for the last part of this video, I'm going to try to put all of this together. I'm going to go to an area that I have not hunted before, have not set foot on before, and I'm going to try to use these layers to go ahead and get me in the game. So if I was ever to hunt there, I would already have spots that I had picked out to go in and look, potentially hang stands, potentially get on a good deer. So as I zoom into this next property, again, this is not a place that I've been to before. This is just a random piece of public in the Southeast. And I'm going to try to key in on some spots to scout and potentially hunt with just using the layers that we've talked about today. Again, I'm looking for edges. I'm looking for natural food sources, natural travel corridors, habitat diversity. Sometimes you find that all in the same spot. If you do that, you're almost guaranteed that you want to hunt there. But we're not on a river system right here, and so the pine-dominated landscape comes back into play. So we're going to start out by going to the deciduous versus coniferous. So again, Hunt Map Layers, scroll down, Trees, Crops, Cover folder, click there, and then we see deciduous versus coniferous. We're going to toggle that on, and we're going to immediately start seeing some patterns. Another quick little tip to note, if you're ever using this feature and you typically just run your map on satellite, if you can ever pick up any distinguishable lines, like right here, for example, it's not always going to be solid red, like this one's broken up with some mix, but you can kind of make out that there's a line right there. And what that is, we can toggle on hybrid to see it, but that means that there's some sort of water feature there. Like this, for instance, we've got a creek that's running through there. So that I'm already going to signify as a travel corridor. Now I'm going to try to narrow this down further by going back down to my layers, tree, crops, cover. I'm going to turn deciduous versus coniferous off, and I'm going to toggle acorn producing oaks on. And wow, that limits it down a lot. So if I had never hunted here before, these areas particular right in here are going to be some spots that I would definitely want to check out. And you also appears to be that you could park in here and hike in, potentially hunt this spot, because with this we know now is a creek running through. It's going to be lower elevation, so both sides are going to be higher. You could potentially hang a stand right here and hunt this on a north, or really any kind of north, and then vice versa. You could potentially park right here, hike into there and hunt it on a south. but you have options. And again, it just shows how quickly you can use these layers to help get you in the game. So when you're out there this fall, play with some of these features, some of these layers, and hopefully it'll help you be more successful.